A shadoof is a device that was first built in 2000 BC by the Mesopotamians. It was utilized by farmers for the irrigation of crops and for easier access to water. The shadoof is a method that is still used today in some places, such as northern Nigeria. The shadoof consists of the pivot, which in our project consisted of the wooden Y-shaped stick, as well as the counterweight, which for us was the rock and a cloth sack, the arm, which was our long stick, and the bucket, which we used a white plastic bucket for.
Good morning, class. My name is Emma, and this is my project with Maya Smith. We're building a shadoof. It's used to lift water from a river using a fulcrum system. You would have a stick like this, and it would be dug into the ground for stability, and then a long stick like this would be here. You would have it pivoting like this, which one end would be by some water, like a river, and then one end would be weighted like a counterweight. There were more advanced versions later invented by other groups of people, but we're just going to be building the very simple first version, which was with a stick like this, with a Y shape, and then another one that would just go through like this. Later, they would have more advanced ones, such as a bunch of shadoofs in a row, which is actually a really amazing invention for bringing water far from your source, say if your farm was far away. Also had a system, not using a Y like this, where this stick here would rotate, and then your water, so you don't have to actually physically pick up the bucket once you've lifted from the water, and bring it to the other side, you could pivot it. And then you could just dump it in, say, to a canal leading to your farm. But like I said, we're just going to build a simple one today, and we're able to show you the process right now. Okay, hi everybody, we're going to be going through all the tools we're going to be using to build our shadoof. So the first thing that we have is this rock. It's going to be the counterweight for our shadoof, so we're going to be fastening this to one end of our pole. And to fasten it, we're going to be using rope. Two types of rope here. Probably the ancients would have used one more like this, where you can actually see the braiding. I think we're going to be using this one to connect the two sticks together, and probably to connect the rock. What we have is scissors. This is not something that the ancients would have had. They probably would have used a rock or something quite sharp to cut the rope, but we're going to use scissors because we can. And we have, like I said before, our two sticks. We have this one, which is where we're going to be connecting the bucket and the rock to. And we have our Y one. This one was the most important one to find, because when they first started making shadoofs, they used ones with this Y shape to fasten everything to. Because this is obviously, once you have this shape, it's quite easy to use. So because this Y stick that you found is not very thick, we're a little bit limited to the size of things that we can use. But I made sure that we found a Y stick, because this is how the most simple shadoof would have been made in the beginning, and we're making quite a simple one. Try and connect all these things now. Let's see how it works. Hey everybody, so we decided to not film the process of us making the shadoof, just because I want to test some few things out, see how they went. I'll explain kind of things that we did try, why they didn't work, and kind of how we ended up where we did. So as I mentioned, we were going to use a rock to attach to the stick, but we found that actually just attaching the rock straight to the stick using rope kind of difficult. So when I was doing research for the project, I noticed that people would use weighted bags and attach those to the stick. So that's what we decided to do. We just put the rock inside this cloth, and then we used string to attach to here. We found it was pretty easy to do that. So that's how we ended up with this setup. We used rope to attach them. We kind of put a knot at both ends, and then we looped it around. Find it working pretty well. Sticks are staying together, which is basically the most important thing. Not sure how this would work in terms of longevity, but it's good for this experimental method of just trying to build the shadoof. This bucket here, so Obviously the ancients would have had buckets, so that's what we decided to go with. We just attach this plastic bucket to the stick using some rope. Obviously they would have had a woven bucket. We have this plastic one. So now we're going to try and find a little creek and see how she works. We've transported our Shadoof down to a nearby creek. Obviously it's a creek, not a lot of water. We'll do our best. So one thing I forgot to mention before that we added was this little handle of rope. Make it easy. And as you can see when there's no water in it because of the weight, it's super easy for me to pull that bucket up and down. So theoretically how the ancients would do it is they would let the bucket go down like that into the water. It would fill up because the water level would be a lot higher. It would be in a river. Then, using the handle, they'd pull up. And see how easy it was for me to lift the water out of the river now. One thing about our Shadoof is ours is a mobile Shadoof. So it would have been secured far better into the ground. We just kind of have it stuck in some leaves and mud right now. But that would improve the stability that you're seeing. They would use quite a long rope, really get it down into the ground, and you'd be quite stable for lifting those big buckets of water that would be needed.
We decided to make our manual for our Shadoof after our experimental construction of it because we wanted to figure out through trial and error what would work the best. We definitely found out a couple tips and tricks to make the Shadoof better.
There were definitely a few things we learned from our project through trial and error. The first one was that our arm needed to be double the length of our pivot, otherwise the bucket wouldn't reach the water source. It takes more effort than we originally thought to find a counterweight that works well for the weight of the bucket and the water combined. To add on to this, the weight of our bucket played a big part in how heavy our rock needed to be because the plastic buckets that we were originally going to use didn't provide enough counterweight for the rock. It was difficult to secure the weight onto the arm of the Shadoof without using some strip of cloth because the rock wouldn't tie properly. Our plastic bucket wouldn't submerge in the water because of the buoyancy of the bucket. We struggled to get it to go into the water. A woven basket or some type of cloth sack might have worked better. And the wood used for the Shadoof needed to be pretty big and sturdy because a very good example would be the end of our Shadoof.
Did it break?
Absolutely.